Is it Serena? Like, is it Muhammad Ali? Like, is it Bo Jackson? Like, is it Dion? Is it Michael Jordan?
I was waiting for that one.
Is it Oscar Pistorius? Like, we want to figure
Rest in
out
peace
and
to his
kind of
girlfriend.
discuss
Great
who
aim.
is the greatest athlete of all time. But I feel like we should kind of add some criteria, not necessarily criteria, but let's define it. What do we mean? When I say who's the greatest athlete of all time, what's the first thing pops in your head?
Like you're gonna say, we need to define it like some liberal arts school fucking college course. What does athlete mean to you?
What is it times?
So that's what the athlete to me always meant, like athleticism, right? Like what is it that your physical ability and gifts are to that can be mental too, to allow you to just excel in whatever field, but even not beyond even your field that you're an expert necessarily in. It's just how athletic you are in a sense. Because I always thought it was different anytime that like I think it's like greatest athlete is different than greatest player. Like greatest football player of all time is different than the greatest athlete of all time. Look, I think Tom Brady's the greatest football player that's ever lived. The motherfucker can't run to save his life. So can I say he's the greatest athlete? No. There's like, can your skills in one thing also translate to doing something else? I think also speaks to your athleticism, right? Or you could be so far excelled in one particular thing that it trumps over any other thing. Like when you talk about Usain Bolt, fastest man that's ever walked on the face of the earth, possibly. That's insane. Doesn't mean that he could jump in an Olympic swimming pool and swim like Michael Phelps. Doesn't mean he could take a hit in the NFL. But he's so
he wouldn't have to, though. Would he have to? I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Because I would just run him on. All he has to do is run drag routes. He's just running go routes every time.
His legs are
drag
too
routes,
long.
Go routes.
You're talking about like
he
the
has
Randy
two
Moss?
routes. He is, like his route tree is two routes. And what are you fucking gonna do? What are you gonna do? Like you're gonna
hit him.
Put two over the top?
You put two over the top, but I'm saying the first time he gets hit, it's going to be a problem for Usain Bolt. And I'm a Jamaican. I know he can take it. But I'm
Usain Bolt is actually trying to play a different form of football. He was trying to do a trial for Manchester United a couple years ago. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's really into soccer.
I can see that. I know, like he plays a lot of soccer, especially out in Jamaica. But there's like
he didn't get on.
Yeah, and I think that if we're looking at any other sport that he would probably excel at, soccer seems most likely because of the amount of cardio and running and everything you got to do. And like if you were to get ahead of anybody, but you put a safety down there and fucking do a nice little hit against Usain Bolt's thigh leg area, might be a bit of a problem for Usain.
I think it would be easier for him in football than it is in soccer. Let me tell you why. As a receiver, like I
think so too, because more skill is required in soccer.
Yeah, and in football, like you can just go routes all the time,
straight,
like you said. But in soccer, you got to be able to dribble. And if you look at it, there's a bunch of players around the world that are just fast as fuck. But if all their other fucking skills are shit, then they're not a good player. Like if you can't dribble, if you can't pass, if you can't shoot, if you can't defend, what are you?
Those are all fair points. I'm just disrespecting that trash ass sport.
You like that sport?
I like Ted Lasso, and it's finally and the FIFA game. I barely play it anymore. It started to wane off. And Ted Lasso needs to drop another episode.
You haven't played
I don't
me
give
yet.
a shit anymore.
I want you to play me.
We'll get around to it once the new Ted Lasso season comes out, and I care about soccer again.
God.
Look, that's why I'm wearing my Formula One stuff. They just announced Drive to Survive. I need Netflix to keep me interested in things.
Well, and Lewis Hamilton's back.
Yeah, we'll get. Oh, wait, is Lewis Hamilton the greatest athlete of all time? No, because the motherfucker can't do anything out of a car. So it's like, and trust me, I think his athleticism is incredible as far as what it is he does in his skill set. But does it translate to other things? At least that is the general definition I have.
More than like a Babe Ruth.
Fuck you.
The general, like
or Sammy Baugh.
Because I don't disagree with that definition necessarily. I think the general, like when you sit on ESPN or some shit, like they don't really mean greatest athlete. They mean like greatest champion or greatest player. Who was the greatest of the greats is what they mean.
I mean,
and so with that sentiment, we can talk about the greatest athlete of all time, just based off of that definition. Because James, do you kind of agree with K-Dot?
Well, all right. So I'm going based off the definition, right? Which says to me, a person who is proficient in sports and other forms of physical exercise. Okay. So
Billy Blanks is his answer.
You want me to,
match.
Like, can I
You
go
disrespected
like,
Sammy
reason?
Ball, you cocksucker, and I'm not going to let that go. He played 2 ways. He played 3 ways. He was the best punter like ever, and then he's also was one of the greatest defensive backs and quarterbacks, and did all of those things and excelled. Look, you might disrespect. That's in this conversation itself with athlete, you cannot disrespect Sammy Ball like that.
All right, so
that's fucked up shit.
Team, this goes into my first point.
Okay.
I believe athletes now are way better than athletes back then. So. Yeah, so I'm gonna go with that first, just based off of that. Now, I have a couple honorable mentions. So the first one, because I have like 2, like a 1A and 1B.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, so my honorable mentions are Serena Williams, Messi, and Calvin Johnson.
Okay.
So Serena, just because she won shit while she was pregnant, it's fucking crazy. Like, and she's dominant, like fucking dominant. She's the most dominant in tennis. Messi, just because his dribbling skills are fucking nuts. Nobody plays the game like him. And I don't think anybody ever will. Calvin Johnson, because he's 6'5", ran a 4.3, and he's a Hall of Famer from Detroit. Like,
Detroit gives him extra points.
Yeah. Like I wasn't gonna write him down, but I was like, wait, you in the Hall of Fame? You played in Detroit. Like, extra shit. All right, so down to my top 2. So I'm gonna come out and say it. Dion is number 2, and Bo Jackson's number 1. They were both proficient in multiple sports on a high level. I think Dion's the only player to ever win a World Series and or to play in a World Series and a Super Bowl. But for Bo Jackson, he's the only player to be in the NFL and MLB All-Star. Reports said he ran a 4.12 in the 40, which is nuts, especially at his size. But also the fact that his injury, right, the hip injury, for me, that puts more on it for me just because of like the psychological impact of an injury like that. For him to come back and then go into baseball and do what he did, like over 140 home runs in baseball after that injury, is kind of nuts to me. So got to go with Bo. And he knows that because Bo knows.
Okay.
Did you ask him for his answer? Or did you ask him to define what athlete was?
Oh, you didn't? I asked you. I said, yo, do you want me to go? And he was like, yeah. I'm gone. I'm gone. I went. And now we're here. You know my answer. You know why.
We were just trying to define it. But, hey, I'm cool with it.
Well, all right. I jumped the gun.
It's all right.
You went ahead and cut motherfuckers in Flavor Town. We just sitting there.
Hey, yeah.
I think K-Dot probably has the same answer, and then y'all gonna be shocked at my answer. So
I don't think I'm gonna be shocked by your answer because I don't think that. So am I supposed to get my answer? Hey, host, what should I do now? But
yeah. Like, cause you're gonna be like, yeah, and then you're gonna go, you'll be like, I didn't ask for your answer.
I just not know. I literally, K-Dot, didn't I just say, like, wasn't I talking about his definition of the?
Yeah, that's what I heard, and he just went. Like, you asked, hold on. So James, do you agree with what K-Dot's definition is? My honorable mentions are Serena Williams.
No, I went straight into the definition. And then
right, and then you said Serena Williams.
I talking about my honorable mention, like where I'm going. He was like, yeah, and I was like, all right, well, my honorable mentions are, you know what?
That's on you. Right, that's on you. You can't put that on me.
It's cool. You know what? K-Dot, just go and give your answer.
Am I allowed? I don't know if this is the right time.
I already went, man.
Are we still building?
Just go. I already went.
All right. Well, so what I think I want to say before we get into that is to preface by saying that there's that, like you were saying, Kim, the other answer, which is like the other definition of what people actually typically mean by greatest athlete, which is like the greatest champion or what I was saying is the greatest player, right? So I'll do both. And the reason I'll do both is because James stole the shit out of my answer. Because I think I even put my answer in the text thread, so suck my dick.
You did.
So
No, you did.
I didn't. I thought I did. All right. Yeah, I did. Cocksuck. So
I'm just fucking all the way up today.
So, in my opinion, the greatest athlete that I know of that has done anything is Bo Jackson as well. Now, even though that 4.12 time, when you actually do some digging, it might not have ever happened, but the everybody that was there for anything around it said that it was very, very easy to establish that he probably could have done that and done that easily. But the other things that you notice, like back in high school, you just tell he was born differently than everybody else. Like he just had this natural ability to do things that other people couldn't. Because you look at like what he was doing as a runner in Alabama, he held like various state championships in a lot of different track and field events. Whether it be different distance running. I know he was a decathlon athlete. It used to have such a huge lead at decathlon events that I think the last 2 years of high school, he just sat out the final round because he was that high in points. Like that to me is insane. What he was able to do by accomplish in football. And then the thing with football is that he wasn't the first running back. Al Davis knew that he was also playing baseball. And he was going to dedicate a lot of time. Bo Jackson played second fiddle to Marcus Allen. But if you look at any of those stats, Bo is clearly better than Marcus Allen during that time period, which is insane because Marcus Allen is a Hall of Fame running back. But I think anybody that looks at those stats and you see the average yards and everything that he rushes knows that if they had just fed Bo Jackson a bit more, he would have outran anything that Marcus Allen was able to do. And the other thing is you talk about that hip injury. Here's the craziest part about the hip injury. Do you know exactly what happened with the hip injury?
What'd you say?
Do you know exactly the details of the hip injury and why it ended up ending his football career?
Yeah.
No. Well, I know. Actually, I do. Well, because of the 30 for 30, I know some of them.
So he gets the injured hip, and being as impatient as he is and wanting to get back on the field, decides he's going to pop his hip back into place. And when he pops his hip back into place, he fucks up a bunch of organs and shit inside that fucked up with the blood vessels and all the tissue started to die. If he had literally just calmed down for a moment, stepped out of the game and let the doctors take care of it, we're looking at a surefire Hall of Famer, and we have no idea to the extent that he did. So it wasn't just like a fluke injury. It was he was such a dog and trying to get back on the field that he made it that much worse for himself, which is nuts to me and just goes with how random an injury it was, at least random enough that it ruined. He could have had no idea that was going to happen, right? So it wasn't even like you could say from a general body breakdown standpoint that he was just fickle, because you get a lot of guys who are like great athletes, but they get hurt all the time. That wasn't Bo. It was a really weird injury, and it just got made worse by a terrible decision in the moment. If we're talking about the other definition you have as far as the athlete thing with like the greatest like champion, I'm hard pressed to say it's anybody other than Michael Phelps, most decorated Olympian of all time. The dude just transcends even what humans are supposed to be able to do in the water, to the point where he is the fucking like white natty boat drinking version of fucking Jason Momoa, just up here in the harbor, fucking eating crabs and putting Old Bay on shit. Like he's just incredible. He has gills. Like what he's able to do in the pool is insane. And the thing is that I don't think a lot of people understand is that like the variety of things he does swimming wise are so different as far as the disciplines. It's not just swimming. It's the way that you have to prepare your body for each kind, like butterfly compared to 200 meter compared to this. Like it's all different sort of style. He excels at all of it. Like I don't know if it's something in the water up here, but because what Katie Ledecky also fucking gangster as shit. Maryland just knows how to fucking make swimmers. Michael Phelps has got to be up there on some sort of Mount Rushmore of greatest athletes.
Okay, I think that's fair. I didn't really even consider this, but I think that's more than fair. Especially just considering him being on like a Mount Rushmore of greatest athletes and / greatest champions. For me, I think the answer that might slightly surprise y'all for greatest athlete for the version that because I have an answer for both definitions too, unlike James.
He's going to say Lamar Jackson. God damn it, he's going to say Lamar Jackson.
It's obviously Lamar.
I had two different versions, but fuck you.
And so like the version that we're talking about, where it's just say simply athlete, not necessarily greatest champion, because I think this person is far from the greatest champion. But I'm going to go with LeBron James. And it's simple. It's very simple as to why I'm going to go with LeBron James. When we talk about athlete, talking about, I think you have to consider body. You have to consider speed, strength. And you also have to consider what I would like to call you have to consider Iron Man ability. Like, how injured does this person get? Like, I can't go Bo because he had the injury. And that's some unfortunate shit. It's also hey, you can't really, I can't go Bo because of that reason, though Bo's probably second on my list.
LeBron's been hurt
he was
so much.
Like that great.
LeBron's been hurt.
He's been hurt, but not that long. I mean,
but he's
fucking Wolverine, man.
I know, but Bo Jackson took his hip and said, back to place. And then he fucked some other shit up.
Great. I've seen Kobe pop his finger into place and pop his shoulder into place.
It's a hip.
He had hey,
completely different.
I'm just saying.
I've seen Mel Gibson doing a Lethal Weapon. It's a fucking hip.
Wait, how many people do you know get their shoulder replaced?
Are you gonna let me finish?
Okay.
All right. So I think, and that's why I said I still value that, because that's why Bo's number 2 and not number 1. But for me, number 1, I have to add that amount of longevity as far as being an athlete. Dude's been doing fucking the basketball thing for fucking 20 years, and he hasn't missed a full season. He hasn't missed the most games he's missed, I think, in a season is like 30, 35. It's insane. And some of those, you could argue, he could have came back probably 15 games early. It was that Lakers season. He was like, I'm not fucking coming back with you bitches. And he didn't come back. So it's just, dude is a fucking dude. Bro, we're talking about a guy who, in the 2-sport thing, he could have been a fucking tight end. We're not even finna go there. No. LeBron ran
he could have been
a fucking 4.4 in high school.
So?
What do you mean so?
I play tight end. So look, let me ask you these questions. Can he block? We don't know. Can he catch? We don't know.
Yeah, but I think that all right.
He's gonna be another one of the dudes on your
No,
team.
you're not. No, he's not. No, he's not.
The dude that
Sam Andreas?
Yeah,
who didn't know American football was a thing until he was a teenager.
Darren Waller don't block. Don't block.
Yeah, he does. He's just not that great at it.
This is what we're talking about.
But that's the thing.
He can catch. Can LeBron catch? We don't know.
Yes, he was his sophomore year, 46 catches, 905 yards. His junior year, 57 catches, 1,160 yards.
Talking about high school, fam.
Bro, we talking about athlete.
Yeah, James, I don't understand why you're being so he's got a point. He could have legitimately played tight end, especially if we're talking about the post Antonio Gapes, just hire a basketball player to jump up and box out in the end zone. He's 6'9". Yeah. He's 6'9".
It sounds
250. And he can run his ass off. I get the other tools, but I'm saying if there's any position
really important. But
if there's any position in football that can be taught to someone who doesn't necessarily know everything about football, it's tight end. And it's been proven. You have a lot of guys that that never played in high school, barely touched a football field in college, get told, all right, here's you just got to do this. Let's work on this in camp. Let's get your hands the way they need to be. I don't
like the disrespect to the tight end position, but okay, keep going.
I'm saying tight end right now, what tight end has become over the years is just the physical freak body. We're going to slot him in here, but it's not the same sort of the art form that you develop as a cornerback that has to be learned over time, and you can't just cheat yourself into being a cornerback. The same way that being a quarterback, you can't just flip it overnight and say, I'm going to be a quarterback. No, this is something you fucking develop and learn over time. Tight end is the position in which you could say, we need you to be a receiver, but not as good as the receivers. We need you to be a blocker, but not as good as the other blockers. Use your body to get the matchups to get us what it is we need. And that's what the tight end position is. It's the biggest freak athletes on any team, typically nowadays, is your fucking tight end. And you think about it through the years. Jimmy Graham, freak. Antonio Gates, freak. What's the name? Jared Cook, I don't understand. Every time I see him, I'm like, you're not built like anything. What are you? What is this? Just stumbling and bumbling around. It's just massive human being. It's weird. The tight end position is where those freak athletes go. I'd be hard pressed to say that I think if you're looking at like per capita, the tight end position probably has the best athletes maybe in the NFL as far as from a body and freak standpoint. The same way, like when you talk about like Calvin Johnson, right? If Calvin Johnson is not as quick as he is, which is why he's just an insane freak, if he's not, he slots in at the tight end amazingly. Like he'd be an amazing tight end. Like I even think I look at the trade. I'm like, why don't y'all just say he was a tight end, like, just to fuck with matchups? Like he could have just said it, and it would have worked out. You're gonna put a linebacker on him. If he could be there with the big bodies.
You said the best like athletes per capita is at tight end.
I know that what I'm saying is a little weird.
I think that's fair though, because I mean you do like it's tight end, DN/outside linebacker.
Yeah.
And you maybe running back, maybe.
I think running back probably next. But
yeah, but it's
safety
like,
no more. Sean Taylor, I think, was the last one of them. And then like as far as dude being like 6'4", 230 playing fucking safety, it could do the closing speed. Receiver, yeah, I don't know. Because I mean,
he just said if Calvin Johnson wasn't as athletically gifted as he was,
Calvin Johnson's a freak. Calvin Johnson's a once in a lifetime. We're never going to see a body like that.
Okay.
It's him and T.O. as far as like those levels of physique at the wide receiver position. Because you wouldn't say that about Larry Fitzgerald, one of the greatest wide receivers of all time. You wouldn't say that about Randy Moss, one of the greatest wide receivers of all time. You wouldn't say that about Jay Rice. You wouldn't say that about Marvin. Oops.
You might say it about DK Metcalf. You might say it about DK Metcalf. But the thing with DK
was strong.
He was strong, but I'm saying he was strong. But like, look, come on, Calvin Johnson was 6'6".
Calvin Johnson
236
for a reason.
Like he shouldn't be able to 6'5", 230 something. You shouldn't be able to move the way you do.
He ran a 4.3. He's not.
That's insane. His strike, but that, Calvin Johnson is what Usain Bolt, if he put on more weight, would have potentially looked like as an athlete. I think in the NFL. That's if we're going all the way with it, because Usain Bolt's 200 pounds.
Usain Bolt try to catch a football.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That shit was hilarious. But he's
like, come on, man. Like,
but Johnson has hands. Born somebody that doesn't do
it. But see, James, now you're conflating things because you're talking about skill set versus athletic ability.
Right.
Athletic ability is
okay.
Catching football. Right. That's not an athletic ability. Okay. That's not a thing. That's a skill set.
So that which even brings us back to majority the guy who's the two people that are on all of our lists to some degree are Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders, right? Mm-hmm. And a big difference between Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders, if you really look at it, was the skill set. Dion, you remember Dion's quote, "Football is my wife, baseball is my girlfriend." He never really tried with baseball. He never excelled at the skill set. He just used his physical abilities to get him somewhere. In baseball, like Bo Jackson hit 30-something home runs in a season. He applied himself to baseball in a way in which he was like, I want to be one of the best baseball players. Dion was just like, I'm a natural freak athlete. This is just the way that I'm doing it. And he could steal the shit out of a base. He could do certain things, but I mean, he would never the kind of hitter skill wise that you have with a Bo Jackson. The other thing with Bo, from an athletics,
he's more of a Ricky Henderson type of hitter.
Yes.
And who I love. Ricky Henderson is one of my favorite baseball players ever. But go ahead.
I still think the hardest thing to do in any sport that is like you have to do in order to play the sport is hit a baseball, period. But the thing with also Bo that a lot of people don't know, do you know Bo never lifted weights?
Yeah. He just did push-ups and sit-ups every day.
He just did push-ups and sit-ups. Like push-ups and sit-ups every day. That is
that
you.
Bo or Herschel Walker?
No, it's Bo. It's Bo.
I know Herschel did that.
There's more than one guy that's done that. Too. Yeah, Herschel didn't do it, but Bo Jackson also
did sit-ups and push-ups in between like commercials on TV.
No, but Bo wasn't doing that. He wasn't doing it at the games and shit. But you could see with Bo, he's 227 and didn't lift weights all that much. So it's just so that's why I'm saying like physical just gifts and ability in certain athletes is certain. It's would translate, which is why I like the more I think about it, I love your LeBron answer. And I think the thing with the LeBron answer that is the craziest is the longevity. The fact that like I'm remembering running home from school in middle school to go watch him play high school ball. And to think the amount of injuries that I've had not being a world-class athlete over the last how many years, it's insane. LeBron is a freak. He's an absolute freak.
Right. And that's why I think he's at worst in consideration for that Mount Rushmore spot. Like, hey, he's one of the top 4 or 5 greatest athletes we've ever seen if we're ever really talking about athletes. Champions, my answer is different. If we're talking about champions,
he's not up there.
It came down to 3 people for me. It was Serena, Muhammad Ali, and Michael Jordan. And that was it for me. No Tom Brady. No
Floyd.
But he's probably 4th.
Floyd's got to be there. Really?
We're talking about this, a quick sidebar. And here's what I said to James. Basically with Floyd, you can make the argument for Floyd, but here was my thing with Floyd. He ducked some fighters in their prime for me. And I told James, well, that's maybe more of a strategic thing. Like it's not I respect him doing that, but I give you a little bit more edge of being a champion when you look him in the eye and said, let's do this shit. That's why I put Serena, Ali, and Jordan over him. He's in the top 5, but not the top 3 for me.
I got to put Tiger up there.
Okay.
I have to put Tiger up there. I don't have any problem with you. Like, I do think Floyd has to be in the conversation. Like, we have to talk about Floyd. I still think we're looking at, like, other than Muhammad, who, like, I wish we could go back and get those fights in, like, 4K and slow-mo it with new technology so people could actually see how fast this behemoth of a man Muhammad Ali was. Because it's just, you can't do it justice. You can't really do justice to how quick he moved. And like the shit that he would do to make shit just look effortless. When you see him swaying and doing his shit and like none of the punches are landing, but because of the camera quality, you can't really tell like what's happening. It just like, hey, he's doing a little dance. You can't touch him. Like he's too big to be able to do that. Muhammad Ali was an absolute freakish athlete. But then we're talking about like the champion part. Floyd's got to be in the conversation, but Sugar Ray Robinson's got to be in the fucking conversation. We're going like old school boxing. Look, there's a difference between, hey, I'm boxing twice a weekend, to I'm going to put a year between my fights, whatever the fuck it is you're doing. Different time, whatever. Tom, I don't like the Tom disrespect. The Tom's like not on name, but he's got to be.
He can be there. He's not there for me. He can be there. I think he's fair. It's fair enough to put him there. But now, all right. So if you do a top 3, who you putting him over? Serena?
No, I'm not putting him in top 3. Never mind.
Okay? That's all I'm saying. I just gave my top 3. That's my top 3, and I don't think I said the order. For me, it's Jordan, Serena, Ali. And you could really switch that at any day. I could change. I literally was like, it was like a thing where I was like, you know what? These motherfuckers are interchangeable. These fuckers are legends. It doesn't really. It's kind of hard because you could say Serena's better than Ali and Jordan, and I would be like, okay, yeah, she did some shit. Like she's a legend.
While pregnant,
she's a fucking legend.
Like,
and then if you say Jordan never fucking lost in the finals, I'm saying, oh, okay, he didn't. When you talk about champions are undefeated.
But then
and that's what he did.
Let's add another part to it. Like that was a team sport. The other team was individual.
Yes.
So there's that. Like no NBA player wins it by themselves.
Right.
No NFL player wins it by themselves either. So Serena and Ali did that shit by themselves. And
right. I'm changing my answer. It's Ali. It's Ali.
I'm gonna go with Serena.
It's Ali, Serena, Jordan for me.
Like if you like, I'll go Serena. Cause she did it while pregnant.
Yeah.
And like, you know how like when we look at older athletes and we talk about the shit outside of the game that they had to deal with at the same time, like the psychological aspect of it, like playing like in the early days when racism was rampant, still is, but like covert a little bit more. But Serena had to deal with like all the sexist shit and like a bunch of racist shit in the world of tennis. So I want to add that in there for her too.
Okay. That's fair. And that's why, but see, and that's where you get, that's where now I got to get into my Ali bag because we're talking about a dude who went to jail. in the prime of his fucking career. Came back and said, bitch, I'm here, beat some ass. Like, came back, beat some ass. Hey, and again, we're talking about an individual sport. We're talking about a sport where you have to stay in shape, where you have to, that's like peak athleticism as far as training and things of that nature.
He's a like Tupac of boxing.
It's eating, huh?
Funny you should say that. He's actually, look, I will say this though, and this ain't a fucking joke. You talk to any of the earliest pioneers of hip hop, Muhammad Ali is partially responsible for creating rap music. I'm just saying, you dropped the Tupac bar, you dropped the Tupac line. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. All the shit that he was doing with the rhyming off the top of the dome to get into somebody else's head and to say that I'm better than you is a precursor to a lot of what MCing ended up being. And a lot of people say that they look towards Muhammad if you're looking at the pillars and what was happening in the South Bronx early on in hip hop. Go talk to Africa Bambaataa and get back to me, James. That's what I'm saying.
All right. Well, I thought it was more. Okay, never mind. Whatever. I'm not gonna debate you.
Like I can't. It's hard for me to rank them because I think they were right in the sense James said something earlier as far as the athletes being better nowadays than they were back in the past. And to me, it's got a lot to do with just the modern technology aspect of things. It's the same reason I feel like I always say, if you give Babe Ruth access to today's technology, Lord knows what you see, compared to if you get somebody from this era and say, hey, you don't have access to any of this shit. What are you going to do? I think you're not going to see the same. Like, does LeBron's longevity, is it the same thing without sports science being able to tell him what to do and how to rejuvenate in certain ways?
What? When you talk about bringing like athletes from the past and putting them in nowadays, right? You got to give them all that shit. Like, athletes back then didn't have McDonald's. Like, they didn't have fucking Wendy's. Like, these fuckers might have been fat too.
You mean nowadays?
Yeah.
No, that's what you kind of make the decision as far as being an athlete. How many for every, like, we could say that how many people would Eddie Lacy themselves out of the fucking league, but we're not doing that. We're saying that.
I'm saying there's that part of it.
But too. If you like if we're talking, all right, okay. But here's the thing: when you're talking about like a Babe Ruth, who, if you don't excel at this sport, you're gonna die in a slum. Okay, I guess I gotta perform. And now they don't know anything about modern sports science or what it is you're supposed to do to rejuvenate your body. So he just lives life to the fullest. But if he knows, hey, you're going to get $500 million if you just take care of your body. Okay. So you mean I get to retire and then go do all my smoking and shit afterwards? Babe would probably do that. Good. But there's other, like Hank Aaron needs to be in the conversation as far as what he was as far as an athlete and how he, as far as power, speed, the combination of the two things. Jim Thorpe, if you're going really, really long time ago, as far as just being a multi-sport athlete. Then the other thing that you got to realize with a lot of these sports is that, especially football, which is what I give football players credit for in that era compared to now, it's a different game. It was so much more violent that they basically had to have a little bit of boxer in them to fucking perform. You're getting hit in the head, not just from a context standpoint. Motherfuckers were punching you in the head. Deacon Jones used to wrap his arm in a cast. And his bit was that he said, if you hit somebody in the ear, it makes their head ring and it gives you just enough time to swing on right by. It was like, that was legal. Do you remember even when we were young, no one could throw a ball across the middle of the field? Because once you did it, you know that receiver was going to die. And now you have entire NFL offenses built around throwing the ball in the middle of the field. I'm just saying there's a lot of differences with it. Like, is there the longevity that we see with the athletes nowadays? Is Tom Brady playing for 20 years if Deacon Jones could hit him in the face with a club? Like, no. So I'm just saying that there's this give and take. But universally, there's some athletes that far excelled everybody in that era that makes you say, hey, that guy would have been good anytime. And it's the same thing you see nowadays. When I see LeBron James and I see that body, I see that size, I see that speed, I'm saying, hey, I could take you, put you in 1970, put you in 1950, put you in 1930. You're going to be straight as long as we know that you have the hunger to go do this thing, right? Mm-hmm. Calvin Johnson, I can put you anywhere and you're going to be okay, right? Like, there are certain guys who are like, we're going to be fine. We're going to figure it out. Aaron Donald nowadays, hey, I can put you anywhere, motherfucker. Like, you're going to be fine. Like, there's some of that. And it's the same way I feel about some of those athletes back then. The Babe Ruths, I think he'd be fine anywhere. Jim Thorpe, I think he'd be fine anywhere. Sammy Baugh, I think he'd be fine anywhere. Do I think Otto Graham would be the same thing everywhere? No. Do I think a lot? Like, there's this give and take, and that's where you see with the greatest athlete conversation is: does the eye test show you this is a guy who's above everybody else around him to a level at which it wouldn't matter what era he plays in, he'd still be great?
Yep.
I agree with that. I agree. I like that point. James, did you give us your second answer?
Yes, it's Serena.
Okay.
Yeah, Serena easy.
Okay.
Like,
so
while pregnant, that's nuts.
That is. It is.
Like there's a whole human inside you growing, and you're like beating somebody else's ass on the court. That's awesome.
It's ridiculous. Serena's ridiculous.
Well, wasn't it against Maria too?
Yeah, I think so.
She
like the one girl that ain't really do like that much in comparison, like that everybody propped up, and we know why. And she's like, yeah, whoop the ass. And like, wait, was it a daughter or a son that she had?
Daughter, Olympia. Her name was Olympia, which I fucking love.
So Serena and Olympia whooped Sharapova's ass. So I love it. Olympia's already 1-0.
I love that
on the
name.
court.
I fucking love that name. Like, do you like that's I like that.
That's like some Greek goddess type shit.
Like Olympia.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Why are we pulling Greek? Fuck their mythology. I think give Greek. Give me Zulu. Give me fucking Shaka.
My first car was named Athena.
Fun fact: that's why the first part.
Hang on. 1 second. I want to give you your proper time. I just need to respond to James real quick, and I want you to finish your point. Okay. What'd you say? You say your first car was Athena?
Yeah.
What kind of car was it?
Audi A4.
That's pretty solid for me.
And then the current car is named Valkyrie.
Valkyrie or Valkyrie?
Valkyrie.
Okay,
so you and Serena got the same baby book. Okay, got it. All right, continue. All right, Keem. What were you saying about?
So my name is Shaquem. My dad got the Shaq part. He was like, I got that from Shaka Zulu. He was like, I like Shaka Zulu, Legendary Warrior, all that good stuff, and then Hakeem was like, I think Olajuwon and or something. I forget what else, but like the first part of my name is from Shaka Zulu.
Oh, nice.
Legit. I'm named after a sitcom character, or the actor that plays the sitcom character.
It's a different way.
A lot of Black people went to college because of that show, so I think it was very, very impactful. Thank you very much.
Hey, I like A Different World. It's a great.
Dean
is a great. I love him.
I do too. I don't know why he doesn't get more work. I always thought he was pretty legit. The late 90s were not kind to him career-wise.
All right. Well, he was still in stuff late 90s, and then it turned like early 2000s.
I'm saying late 90s and the 2000s. The last movie that I remember fully, what was the one where The Sixth Man?
Sixth Man. He was in Sixth Man. He was also in Vampire in Brooklyn.
Yeah. I don't. Vampire in Book. I gotta watch that movie again.
I used to like that movie.
I've heard it's underrated. I've actually heard that recently.
It's a good movie.
We're getting off the rails, guys.
We always do.
Well, we can kind of wrap this up. I mean, we kind of came to a conclusion, and so I think for K-Dot, greatest athlete, he's got Bo, greatest champion, Michael Phelps. James, for greatest athlete, you've got Bo as well. Greatest champion, you've got Serena. Greatest athlete for me, LeBron. Greatest champion, Muhammad Ali.
Nice.
I think Muhammad goes both ways though. But all right, let's. Shut the fuck up.
I'm gonna be honest. I was with James on that one.
Oh, both of y'all. Shit. Come on, guys. Come on, guys. Elevate your minds, man. Elevate your minds. You're better than this.
I could do.
Come on, y'all got named you out here naming fucking cars, Olympian fucking Serena Williams names, and then you're named after Shaka Zulu. Do better, gentlemen. Do better.
Well, that's it for this episode of Unequal Opinions, and now you know who are the greatest athlete/champions of all time.
I don't know if you know that. You know what our shitty opinions are on the greatest athlete.
Look, if it's different, comment below.